Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about energy and how we can increase our energy. If you are someone that's suffering from leaky gut or SIBO, or even if you're someone that feels fatigued on a regular basis, this video is very, very important to watch. And please make sure you watch all the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video and let me know in the comments any other videos you'd like me to cover or topics you'd like me to cover that may be more specific for you. So today we're going to talk about energy and how we can increase our energy. And this is very, very important when we have got gut dysfunction or any kind of dysfunction in our body, because our body is trying to get balance, trying to get back into homeostasis. And in order to do that, it requires energy. Energy is so important, and making sure that we have the right balance of energy is going to help heal our gut and help heal our body. This is also really, really important, energy levels, because we need to make sure that we are not focusing on simply symptoms. So if you've got SIBO or leaky gut, you'll be focusing on certain symptoms that you might be suffering from. However, you need to focus on your entire body, and this is one aspect that's going to assist with your supplementation and your SIBO protocol, etc. And getting relevant energy into your body is going to be super crucial. So the first part, what we're going to look at is what we call house kryptonites, or what I call house kryptonites. And they're things that are around your environment that are causing problems with your hormonal balance, your sleep, and your energy. So they're taking things away from you without you actually even trying. They're just things that are in your environment. And we need to get on top of those if we want to improve our health and improve our energy. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is xenoestrogens. So xenoestrogens are things that mimic your estrogen in your body. So you can see on this slide, we've got estrogen that normally binds to a receptor and sends a signal to our cells to say that there's some estrogen here. But a xenoestrogen is something that binds to an estrogen receptor and sends unintended signals to our cells. So in other words, it's mimicking what our hormones would normally do. And that's really, really bad, because we want to be in control of how our estrogen is in our body. When you have got high estrogen as a male, you might find that you feel kind of down. You might find that you have man boobs. You might find that you struggle to lose weight. As a woman, you can find that you feel quite moody. You might find that, again, you've got weight gain. You might have other symptoms such as brain fog. So estrogen can cause lots and lots of problems when we've got too much of it, and we need to have it in balance. Now, the problem is with these estrogen or these xenoestrogens is that they are in many, many products that you use on a daily basis. So therefore, the first thing that we need to do is try to get rid of these things out from our house and in our household and replace them with things that are more endocrine friendly. In other words, they're more balanced with our hormones and they're not going to affect us in a negative way. So you can see that plastics, especially BPA plastics that are standard plastics you might get in your Tupperware containers, or you might get food containers, or you might get polystyrene containers, anything that's got plastic in them, especially when it's exposed to heat, can really increase these xenoestrogens coming into your body. So a common thing that people do is they have plastic Tupperware containers. They might take them to work, or they might put leftover food in, and then they microwave them, okay? And you microwave them to heat them up. So what you want to do is remove your food and put them into glassware, ideally, so that when you're microwaving them, or avoid using the microwave, to be honest, but that's a whole nother topic. But you want to be removing your food from plastics first and storing them in things like glass or metalware, ideally, so that you're not getting these xenoestrogens going into the food that you're consuming. Also, in common things such as nail polish, polish removers, detergents, perfumes, all sorts of things. There's a whole list there you can see that are pretty common. So what you can do is have a look around your house, start taking into account the things that you use on a daily basis, things like washing up liquid. So that's a common one that can have xenoestrogens in. Things like personal deodorants or sprays, makeup. Try going for more natural things. There's lots of natural products on the market, and what I'll do in the comment section on this YouTube video, I will leave a bunch of stuff that you can kind of replace with things that I use, that I like to use on a daily basis. I'll leave a list there, give you an idea of things that you might want to have a go at using. But obviously I don't use makeup, but things like creams or deodorants, you can easily replace those with things that are going to be more kind of in balance with your body and put less load on. Obviously, you can't avoid all these things. You can't go crazy. You've got to have a normal life. But in your home, you can control some of these things, especially things you're exposed to quite often. So as well as that list that you saw quite comprehensively on there, there are other things where you won't even think about having these xenoestrogens. For example, we've talked about makeup, we've talked about washing up liquid, but things like plastic containers that you might use for baby bottles, they can contain, they're not BPA free, they can contain kind of harsh plastics. Things like your mattress. So when you get a brand new mattress, you probably notice this. You buy a brand new mattress, they absolutely stink when you open them up out of the plastic. And if you read the side of it, it will say that it needs to be aired for a few days. And that's because they contain some really, really harsh chemicals. So things like mattresses, you might want to avoid having them for a few days when you initially buy them. You can buy ones that are better for you and better for your health. But generally, you'll find most mattresses kind of release these toxins into your atmosphere, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. So you want to get as much fresh air in as possible. Drinking water is especially important because these xenoestrogens, especially bottled water, if you're buying them from a local supermarket or shop, it's likely that they've been left in the sun for a long while. They've been transported in warm conditions, which means these xenoestrogens would have leached into the water supply. So even though you think you're drinking something healthy because it's sparkling water or natural water or whatever, it can be harmful potentially if it's not stored in a glass container, that you might have some of these xenoestrogens in there as well. You can see there they've got receipts as well. So the receipt information, the actual carbon on the receipts can also have xenoestrogens in them. Air fresheners in cars, air fresheners in your home. There's lots of these Glade plugins, things that people use to make the house smell nice. Well, they might smell nice, but they're actually poisoning you in the same way. So use things like naturally scented candles rather than using things like air fresheners. And try to just use more natural products around your home. Yes, sometimes they're not as good as the kind of more harsher things, but you're going to feel better for it, and it's going to certainly increase your energy. So there are many things around your house that can contain xenoestrogens, and Google them, have a look around, start going through your home, and start getting rid of as many things as you can to make your environment sort of xenoestrogen free as much as possible. There are also lots of other things that we can talk about, and I'm going into these things in just a little bit of detail, but these are just to give you ideas and give you sort of a thought process that you can start going through and looking for some of these kryptonites around your home. So as well as the things that I've just mentioned, there are other things that we need to look at, especially when we're looking at things like sleep disruption and just general energy disruption. So we talked about things like detergents on the previous slide. Fresh air is so important. So lots of people live in older houses, they might live in Victorian buildings, and as a result, you might not have very, very good air quality coming into your home. And you want wherever you sleep, especially to have very, very good air, because we're asleep for 8-9 hours of the night, if we have a good night's sleep. And we want to make sure that the air that we are breathing, especially in our rooms that we sleep in, to have as better air quality as possible. So things like dehumidifiers, if you've got, bad air in that area or damp in that area, things like air filtration systems, they can all be very, very useful in order to clean up your air. Or if you can't afford any of those things, simply open a window and get some fresh air circulating in your room and during the day. EMFs, or electromagnetic frequencies. Now, these are very, very important because we don't realize that in the modern day world that we live in, we have got electronics absolutely everywhere. And we became used to it because we just think it's become normal life. But all these different electronics, including TVs, Wi-Fi, routers, your computer, laptops, everything, phones especially, they all emit EMFs. Now, you may not believe it or you may not think it's doing anything because you can't see it. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not putting any harm and causing problems with your homeostasis of your body. So what I do recommend is before you go to bed, you want to make sure that you switch off as many things as possible. So I've got a very, very cheap £3 timer that I've got on my Wi-Fi router that switches off my Wi-Fi at 10:30 at night. So that way I'm not getting bombarded with any EMFs as I sleep. Now that's really, really important because what they've found is, and the science shows, that different EMFs can affect different people in different ways. So you might find that it affects your deep sleep. You might just find it affects your sleep pattern. It might affect your overall energy. You might wake up feeling more refreshed. And I think if any of those things, even affects you at just 10% of the time, it's worth switching it off. Pots and pans, they can contain xenoestrogens as well. If you are using non-stick pots and pans, they are likely to fall into the category of containing xenoestrogens or even carcinogens that can potentially lead to things like cancer. So what we want to be doing is making sure that we cook our food, not just prepare healthy food, but also cook it in the right environment. So I'd recommend using things like copper pans or stainless steel pans. Light is extremely important. We have got so much light pollution in our environment that it's no wonder that most people can't sleep. Before you get to bed, you're probably watching TV or you're on a backlit LED, OLED TV that are hundreds of times more brighter than the old TVs we used to have, 10, 15 years ago. So as a result of that, we are affecting our circadian rhythms and affecting our sleep patterns. So what you want to try to do is an hour before you go to bed is reduce the impact some of these lights have. Now, what you can do, like I've done, is in my bedroom, I have got what I call like softer lighting. So I use red lights rather than standard LED bulbs or incandescent bulbs as much as you can. You will find will react to your body in a much better way than some of the harsher lightings that you get with LED bulbs and things like TVs and computer screens and phone screens. On computer screens, if you do have to work late, you can wear things like blue light blocking glasses, which are relatively cheap off Amazon. You can also use a program called Flux, which will adjust your computer brightness to make it sure it's slightly darker. And you can also have things like covers on your phone or use a lot of phones like the iPhone and Android phones now have a night mode as well. So make sure that you're aware of the light in your room. Importantly though, when we wake up in the morning, and I'll cover this in more detail in the next video, we want to make sure that we have light exposure. So in other words, we want to go into the sunlight. We want to make sure we've got sun on our body for at least 15 to 20 minutes if possible, so that we are encouraging our growth hormone in our body and encouraging our melatonin production so that we sleep well at night. Water source. Now, we might think about our food a lot. I know we've been talking about food and how we prepare our food, but probably more important above all that is the water that we take into our body. Now, water is very, very important because 99% of our cells in our body are made of water. So we want to make sure that we are like a walking battery, basically, and we want to make sure that the water in our body is as best suited for our body as possible and is from a clean source. Now, I've mentioned before about bottled waters and the problems with those, but I recommend if you're going to be drinking a lot of tap water is that you avoid using things like these Brita filters and some of these cheaper filters because they don't really do anything. You can buy a very, very cheap water meter off Amazon and test your water and then test it once you put it through a Brita water filter. And I've done a video about this and you'll find that there's hardly any difference. What you want to use is something like a reverse osmosis system, and it's a great investment into your health, especially if you've got gut or leaky gut problems. You want to make sure that your fluids going in your body are as clean as possible and don't contain things like pesticides, antibiotics, pregnancy pills. I found all sorts of stuff, fluoride. There's lots of harsh chemicals in your standard water supply, which is damaging to your body. And you're also bathing in it as well. So I did a video about the AquaTree, which I'll leave a link below. You can look into that. And I did a water test as well to show you the difference. Follow that information, follow that video, and that'll give you a good insight into having clean water. And last but not least, importantly, mold and paint. So if you live in a moldy house, which I did, which encouraged some of the problems I had with my health many years ago, you want to make sure that you are getting rid of the mold in your rooms, especially in your bedroom. So if you sleep in a moldy room, you're inhaling these mold spores, which are going to affect things like asthma, but also going to affect your overall health. And you'll find if you've been poisoned with mold, it can take a long time to get it out of your system. It's quite a difficult protocol. But that said, make sure that your bedroom at least is cleared from mold. And when you are working with mold or trying to remove it, make sure that you wear gloves and that you do not touch the mold and that you do not breathe the mold in. So make sure you wear a mask as well. Paint. If you've painted your house recently, you might find that you haven't been feeling great, or you might find over a period of time that your energy is kind of low. And the reason for that is most paints are toxic. So you paint obviously large areas of your house with these kind of paints, and Deluxe and all these kind of different companies produce all these paints, but most of them are very, very highly toxic. You can go to different companies. If you have a look, you'll find online other companies that sell paint that is non-toxic. It is more expensive. You don't have as much choice in colors, but they're going to be far better for your biology. So it's a bit of a roundup. I've gone through a lot of information there, and this is just to give you ideas. But the things you want to look at are things like, shower creams, your soaps, your deodorants, the way your food is prepared, the way that you cook it, what it's contained in, where it's actually contained and what you get it in the first place. Obviously, what supplements you're taking, making sure that you've got some clean supplements. And that's, again, another big topic in itself. But other things you want to think about that could deplete your energy, which again, you may not think about, are things like relationships. So the relationships you have with your friends, your partners, are really, really important. And I always say there's people that can make you feel uplifting and energize you, but there are people that you just need to avoid at all costs, that deplete our energy and suck life out of us. And they're people that we don't need in our lives. And it might sound harsh, but the best thing you can do in your life is removing those people from you as much as possible. Obviously, family, you can't do much about that, but trying to minimize your exposure to those people, just as you would treat it as a mold or a fungus or anything else, is the same. You need to treat these people with your relationships in the same manner. Social media, massively harmful to your energy. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you look at is social media, you're going to be bombarded with a lot of negative information, especially if you're watching things like the news. So I recommend, I don't watch the news, I don't look at the news, I look at the stock market and I'm more interested in information like that. But if you watch the news in the morning, it's the worst way of setting yourself up to decrease your energy, to make you feel lethargic and to just make you feel depressed. So don't look at social media first thing in the morning, and certainly don't watch the news. Negative thoughts. If you've got a lot of negative thoughts going around your body, around your mind, if you're doing things that you don't think what you do in secrecy, they say it's not good for you. If you've got thoughts that are things that have bothered you in the past, maybe your history is affecting you, maybe seeking out some therapy or counseling could be a good way of helping and mitigate some of those things that you've got going around your mind. And the last thing there is time. So, how you spend your time. Do you spend too much time on social media? Do you spend too much time playing computer games? How you spend your time can massively affect your energy. If you're someone that needs to recover and relax more, then maybe that's where you need to be spending your time to increase your energy for the next day. So time is just this element that we can spend our time doing lots of things that deplete our energy, and we want to try and increase our energy as much as possible. So that's all I wanted to cover for today. On the next topic, I'm going to talk about sleep. I'm going to go into that in quite a lot of detail. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know some of the things you do. These are just ideas and these are just things you can think about. And none of this is medical advice. This is just my personal journey and things I found that helped me, and I've helped a few other people that I've helped in the past as well, and clients I've helped. So I hope you find it beneficial to you. Give some of these things a go, because even if you only do a few of these things or implement a few of them, it's likely you're going to see a change in your energy and a change in how your body feels. And always think holistically when you are thinking about any of these things. But thank you for watching this video, and I shall catch you on the next video.